are back. Welcome to another European week here on the SO99 channel. This is my preview and predictions for Matchday 6 of the Champions League, our first of 3 European videos coming up for you this week. As I've just said, today's video is for the Champions League. Tomorrow morning, we'll be covering all of the games taking place in the Europa League for Matchday 6, and then Wednesday morning, it will be the Conference League for Matchday 5. As always, if you haven't done so already, please do consider dropping a like on this video. If you enjoy all of my previews and predictions, share it with a friend to get as many people involved as possible. Subscribe to the channel if you're new around here, if you want to gain access to those extra videos and turn those notifications on so you don't miss out when I post those Europa League and Europa Conference League videos. And if you want to gain access to even more previews and predictions from myself, including all of the top 5 major European leagues, you can do so by clicking the join button at the bottom of your screen to become a member of the channel. And of course, a reminder to you all as well that with these other 2 videos coming out for you over the next couple of days, you still have time to have your say on all of the matches taking place on Thursday night for the Europa League and the Conference League. All of our community polls are currently up and available to you over on the community page. Link to that, as always, will be in the description and in the pinned comment of this video. And of course, thank you to all of you that have already gotten involved in all of the predictions for today's Champions League matches. And with that being said, it is time to move on to our previews and predictions for Matchday 6. So let's get straight into it, starting off even earlier than usual tomorrow night. We are heading straight to Kazakhstan for a 3:30 kickoff between Kairat Almaty and Olympiacos. 2 sides that have had it really rough so far in this Champions League campaign. For the home side, they remain winless so far at the start of the season with just 1 point from their opening 5 games. They did put up a decent fight last time up against Copenhagen, but ended up going down 3-2 in the end. They now host an Olympiacos side who are also winless in the competition so far. However, they have got 2 points on the board as things stand and also put up a fairly decent fight, losing 4-3 to Real Madrid on Matchday 5. So pretty good effort from Olympiacos there. It should also be noted that Kairat lost 5-0 when they played Real Madrid earlier on in this tournament, so that could prove to be the crucial piece of information going into this game. Naturally, Kairat haven't played now since Matchday 5 because their domestic season has now finished, whereas for Olympiacos, they have played 3 and they have won 3 since that match, in all of their matches, of course, being played in Greece. They won 3-0 at the weekend. So form, momentum, little bit of the history so far in this competition would suggest that Olympiacos do come into this as the slight favourites, although it should be noted that both of these sides have had 0-0 draws with Pafos so far. That, of course, being Kairat's only point of the competition so far. For Olympiacos, 1 of their 2. In terms of the team news, actually no fresh injury or suspension concerns on either side coming into this, who realistically are both going to need to go for the win here, with them being 4 points and 5 points off the playoff spots respectively as things stand, with just 3 games left to go. So hopefully that means we're going to have a quite an entertaining game, quite an open game. I mean, we've literally mentioned it already. Kairat just lost 3-2, Olympiacos just lost 4-3. So hopefully we're going to see something along those sort of lines going into this one as well. In my head, Olympiacos should absolutely be considered the favourites for this one, but I think we're in for an entertaining game. I'm going for a 3-2 win to the Greeks. I guess you can say middle kickoff of the day. The usual 5:30 slot is Bayern Munich taking on Sporting Lisbon at the Allianz Arena in Germany. As they come into this, Bayern Munich's unbeaten season did come to an end with that 3-1 defeat at the Emirates to Arsenal on Matchday 5. They have now playing a Sporting side who are actually up to the top 8 now after an impressive 3-0 victory over Club Brugge on Matchday 5. Very, very good season so far for Sporting. Since Matchday 5 for Bayern Munich, they've gone back to winning ways, winning 3 out of 3 in the Bundesliga the German FA Cup, as it were, and that included an impressive 5-0 away win to Europa League side Stuttgart this weekend. Yet another hat-trick for Harry Kane in that match. For Sporting Lisbon, a 1-1 draw against rivals Benfica means that they have lost top spot in the Portuguese league as things stand, but they are on a 12-game unbeaten run coming into this game, which includes, of course, the last couple of match days in this competition. Yet again, no fresh injury concerns for either side coming into this one, but there is still 1 suspension for Bayern Munich. That is, of course, Luis Diaz, who remains suspended following that tackle on Achraf Hakimi on Matchday 4. Ultimately, again, I do think this is going to be a game that is going to be full of goals. But realistically, this is very much Bayern Munich's game to lose. Yes, Sporting have been very good so far, but this is by far their biggest test of the competition to date. I'm going for a 4-1 win to Bayern Munich. On to the 8 o'clock kickoffs then, and this is where things start getting a little bit difficult. Now, I said at the start of my Premier League video on Friday morning that we were ahead of a very, very tough Premier League weekend to call. That did prove to be the case with how close many of those games were. I'm going to say it here again now. This is a very, very, very tough week of Champions League matches. And this is probably the first of those genuine, really tough to call matches, as we have Atalanta taking on Chelsea here. Both sides picked up 3-0 wins on Matchday 5, and quite impressive 3-0 wins as well. Atalanta won 3-0 away to Eintracht Frankfurt. Chelsea won 3-0 at home to Barcelona. So very good for both sides coming into this. They're also on exactly the same sort of stats coming into this as well. They both lost on Matchday 1, but haven't lost a single game since, and both sides come into this on 10 points as things stand. So very, very close between them in the Champions League table. In terms of their recent form since Matchday 5, it has been much better from Atalanta, who won their first 2 without conceding. However, they did lose to Hellas Verona 3-1 this weekend. That is a Hellas Verona side who hadn't won a single one of their last 14 matches prior to beating Atalanta this weekend. But crucially, it should be noted that Atalanta did make basically their whole team changes for that match with this game against Chelsea in mind. Maybe that's a bit of a slip up from them in terms of Serie A, but it gives them the best possible preparation for this game against Chelsea, who themselves have not had it good since Matchday 5. After beating Barcelona, they haven't won, drawing 2 and losing 1 as well, and that rounded off with a very, very woeful performance and a 0-0 draw against Bournemouth this weekend in the Premier League. That game also came at a cost as well, as Liam Delap is once again injured for Chelsea. Had a real rough start to his career for the Blues, whereas for Atalanta, they do have one man out, and it's the former Southampton player, Kalmadine Sulemana, is going to be missing for them. As things stand, I think you would have to have the world champions as the slight favourites for this match, just because of the calibre of player they've got available to them still, but their recent form has been very, very poor, and Atalanta have a very, very good home record so far this season, both domestically and in Europe. So right now, I can't split them. I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw. I think we're going to see some goals in this one. Knowing my luck, it'll end up being 0-0. But I think it's going to be a very, very close game. If I had to pick a paid favourite, I'd go for Chelsea. But right now, I don't think there's much between these two sides. That then takes us to Barcelona against Eintracht Frankfurt. And you might be sitting there thinking, hang on a minute, didn't you just mention those two sides? Well, you would be correct, because these are the two sides that respectively lost 3-0 to the two sides we were just talking about in Atalanta and Chelsea. So at least we don't have to cover that one again. Since then, though, it has been only one side that has responded to their poor defeat in their matches in Matchday 5, and that is Barcelona. After losing 3-0 to Chelsea, it's been 2 3-1 wins in a row, and then a 5-3 victory this weekend. Matches against UCL sides Atletico Madrid and Europa League side Real Betis in that run. For Frankfurt, very, very poor from them. A 1-1 draw at home to Wolfsburg, and then a 6-0 defeat to Red Bull Leipzig this weekend. Very, very poor from them. You think they've already come off of the back of a 3-0 defeat at home to Atalanta on Matchday 5 as well. Then losing 6-0 to Leipzig. Not a good look for them heading to the Nou Camp for the Champions League here. In terms of the team news for Barcelona, Ronald Araujo is going to be suspended for this match after getting sent off against Chelsea. Dani Olmo is also injured. For Frankfurt, Michy Batshuayi, he's out. He went off at half-time against Leipzig, and as things stand, could miss the remainder of the Champions League lead phase. So it could be a big miss for them. This is actually the first match of the video so far where we actually have a head-to-head record to talk about. I can tell you that these two sides met 3 years ago in the Europa League of all places. Barcelona dropping down to the Europa League that season, where Frankfurt ended up knocking Barcelona out, winning 3-2 on this ground, en route to winning the competition that year. So who knows, maybe Frankfurt can flip the script and get the result like they did a few years ago, but on recent form, there's only really one winner for me, and I think the way Barcelona are scoring goals at the moment, they could run away with this one here. I'm going for a 4-0 win to Barcelona. Next up is probably the biggest game of a Tuesday night. It is Inter Milan taking on Liverpool. Both sides losing on matchday 5. Inter lost 2-1 at Atletico Madrid. Liverpool lost 4-1 at home to PSV Eindhoven. Another one of their terrible results for them. Since then, though, both sides have actually been unbeaten, which some might surprise some of you considering the amount of negativity surrounding Liverpool at the moment. But let's start with the home side, Inter Milan, who have won 3 games out of 3 in Italy since matchday 5 and includes a massive statement victory this weekend in Italy where they beat Como 4-0, a Como side that hadn't lost any of their previous 12 matches. So Inter coming into this very much full of confidence at the moment. For Liverpool, it was 1 win followed by 2 draws in the Premier League, but it is the performances of some of their players in their draws against Sunderland and, of course, against Leeds this weekend that has come under heavy scrutiny and, of course, all the pressure surrounding Arne Slot. And then the obvious big headline surrounding Mohamed Salah and his meltdown on Saturday evening after not being picked in any of those 3 matches since matchday 5. But let's be honest, Liverpool haven't lost any of those matches since matchday 5. And Liverpool have scored 6 goals in those 3 matches. So is it really Salah's fault that they're underperforming, or are actually they've been doing better without Salah and it's just the defence that's letting them down at the other end as to why they're not winning matches? Because from where I'm looking at it, they're not losing games anymore and they're scoring goals again since Salah came out of the side. So that's my take on it. If I'm on a slot, I'm shoving Mo Salah in the actual press conference this afternoon to see what they have to say about it, but we'll see how it goes. It hopefully won't distract from the game. But if anything, it makes it even more likely that Inter Milan come away with the victory, in my opinion. In terms of that all-important team news, Inter Milan are struggling for right wing-backs at the moment as both Denzel Dumfries and Matteo Darmian are out injured. Carlos Augusto could come in as the left-footed right wing-back for this match. For Liverpool, I think it's pretty safe to say that we're not going to see Mohamed Salah in the starting lineup once again, but who knows? Maybe they will flip that decision and we shall see. In terms of a head-to-head record here, these 2 sides last met in 2022 with both sides winning away from home that year. Liverpool winning 2-0 on this ground, which secured them a 2-1 victory on aggregate. I could very easily see this going either way. I still think Liverpool are a very good side, but you just have to look at how inconsistent they have been and how solid Inter have been over the last few weeks. And for me, this is Inter Milan's game to lose. So I'm going for a narrow 2-1 win to Inter Milan. Speaking of inconsistency, we now have Monaco taking on Galatasaray. We'll start off with the home side, who have only won 1 of their last 5 matches in all competitions. That 1 win against European champions Paris Saint-Germain in Ligue 1. They were only able to draw 2-2 against Pafos on matchday 5 and then lost to Brest this weekend. So very, very bizarre from Monaco over the last few weeks. For Galatasaray, they lost on matchday 5 at home 1-0 to Union Saint-Gilloise, although it should be noted that they did have a fair few of their regular first-team players missing from that match. Since then, though, they have drawn against Fenerbahce and then won over Samsunspor this weekend, and that was with Osimhen coming back into the starting lineup and scoring a brace. In terms of the team news coming into this, for Monaco, they're going to be without Ansu Fati, but they will have both Denis Zakaria and Tiro Kehrer back in their lineup after both missing the defeat to Brest this weekend through domestic suspensions. For Galatasaray, they actually have a man suspended for this match in Arda Unyay, but again, there could be some rotation out as they try and get those key players back to full fitness. Is it likely that Osimhen starts 2 games in 4 days? I'm not so sure, but we shall see. As I said, these are 2 sides that are very, very inconsistent at the moment. I think if Galatasaray were at home, I would probably give them the win. But given the fact that Monaco do have a good home record, certainly in recent weeks with that win over Paris Saint-Germain, and given the fact that they've already got 3 draws out of their first 5 matches in the Champions League, I'm going to go for a draw again in this one. And I'm going to go for 1-1 for Monaco and Galatasaray. Off to Holland now, and these predictions are not getting any easier as we now have PSV Eindhoven hosting Atletico Madrid. Last time out for PSV, it was that incredible 4-1 victory at Liverpool. For Atletico Madrid, it was that 2-1 win over Inter Milan. For the second time in this video, we've got sides that are playing against each other, and the sides that they played against are also playing against each other. Very, very bizarre how that has come out. Since matchday 5, it has been more brilliance from the home side, PSV. 2 games, 2 wins, 5 goals, 0 conceded, and they're now 14 unbeaten in all competitions, winning 11 of those 14, including all of the last 5. For Atletico Madrid, it was a run of 7 wins in a row, but then they got beaten by Barcelona a couple of weeks ago, or should I say this time last week, and then lost again this weekend to another Champions League side in Athletic Club Bilbao, and that has seriously dented their momentum coming into what will be a very, very tough game for them away to the Dutch side in this fixture. Those couple of defeats have coincided with a few key injuries to Madrid as well, with Jimenez being out injured now, Llorente and Alex Baena also out in the midfield. So all of those players missing could be an opportunity for PSV to capitalise. In terms of their team news, the Croatian veteran Ivan Perisic is going to be out for them. He has not featured since the victory at Anfield on Matchday 5. In terms of the head-to-head record, there is one, but it's not really one we can read into. The last time these sides met was 10 years ago, so can't read too much into that one. We can only look at how these sides have performed over recent weeks. With these playoff spots on the line, it's arguably a must-win game for both, but equally it's a must-not-lose. Honestly, I don't think there's any scoreline that would surprise me here. I think this could end up 0-0, and that wouldn't surprise me. It could end up 4-4, and it wouldn't surprise me. It really depends on how these sides end up approaching this match. From what I've seen of these two sides over the last couple of weeks, though, I think PSV come out as the slight favourites here. So I'm going to go for a very narrow 2-1 win to the Dutch side. Now to Tottenham, who finally discovered some home form in the Premier League this weekend, seeing off Brentford, although it should be noted that that was their first win in 6 matches in all competitions. They lost 5-3 to Paris Saint-Germain on Matchday 5, although still 3 goals against the reigning European champions isn't to be sniffed at. For Slavia, it was a prediction that I called spot on Matchday 5. They ended up drawing 0-0 with Athletic Club Bilbao, but have continued their good run of domestic form since then, and in fact they have won all of their last 6 matches back in Czechia. They have, however, already lost 3-0 to Arsenal in this Champions League campaign so far. So now against another North London side, this time away, you probably wouldn't fancy them to get a good result here. In terms of the team news, no fresh concerns for Spurs coming into this, although I think it is likely that Thomas Frank will continue to rotate his side, as he has done in some of these European games so far this season. For Slavia, they're going to be without Volitsky and Dorley, both injured and out for them. To be honest, anything but a Spurs win here would be a shock. Yes, their home form has been well documented so far this season, but it shouldn't be overlooked that they have still performed well at home in Europe so far this season, and I do expect them to come away with the victory once again here. I'm going for a 2-0 victory for Tottenham, exactly what they got against Brentford this weekend. And then finally, in terms of Tuesday's fixtures, we have Union Saint-Gilloise taking on Marseille. Belgium against France in this fixture. Both sides picking up impressive wins on Matchday 5. For USG, it was that win against Galatasaray that we spoke about earlier. For Marseille, it was a comeback victory against Premier League side Newcastle, who should be noted beat USG 4-0 on Matchday 2 away in Belgium. So if Newcastle can go there and get a 4-0 victory, and Marseille can beat Newcastle, stands to reason that Marseille should be considered the favourites coming into this fixture. Then when you couple that with the fact that USG haven't exactly been at their best since Matchday 5, having 1 loss, 1 win and 1 draw at home to Ghent this weekend, maybe it is a little bit more favourable for the away side. However, for Marseille, they haven't won since Matchday 5 either, drawing at home to Toulouse and then losing 1-0 away to Lille this weekend. So it's all a little bit up in the air. Both of these sides have gone a little bit flip-floppy in the last few weeks, so it does make this yet another tough game to call. In terms of the team news, there is one major absentee for Marseille, and that is Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, who has been a very key player for Marseille over the last couple of seasons, and it's no surprise to me that their results have suffered since he's come out of the side over the last couple of weeks. No fresh concerns for the Belgians coming into this. I think this is just going to come down to purely, will Union keep Marseille's attack out? Obviously, Paixão, Greenwood and Aubameyang having fantastic season both domestically and in this Champions League so far. And for USG, their defence has not been as good as they would like. Yes, they got the clean sheet against Galatasaray last time out, but as we mentioned already, Galatasaray had a lot of key players missing for that match. I think this is going to be another very, very close one. I think all 3 results are possible. However, unlike usual, when I say all three results are possible, and I normally go for the draw, I'm going to back my gut instinct, which tells me that Marseille are still going to win this game. I'm going to go for a 2-1 win to the French side. That is going to be it for the early kickoffs, or should I say the Tuesday kickoffs in the Champions League this week. Before we move on to Wednesday, let's see what you guys have been saying over on the community page, which basically proves my theory that this is a very tough weekend of... Which basically proves my theory that this is a very tough week of Champions League fixtures, of course, because you have gone for the following. The majority think Olympiacos are going to beat Kairat. No surprises there. Basically, everyone thinks Bayern are going to beat Sporting. The majority have gone for Chelsea to beat Atalanta, but still 36% going for a home win. Basically, everyone thinks Barcelona beat Frankfurt. Majority going for Inter to beat Liverpool. Again, close between Monaco and Galatasaray, but more favouring Monaco. Close again between PSV and Atletico Madrid, with the majority going for Atletico. And then our closest prediction on Tuesday night, with it being very close between USG and Marseille, but the majority are just going for a Marseille victory. It's incredible that not many people think it's going to be a draw. 41% going for the Belgian victory, 46% going for the French victory. That is going to round off all of the previews and predictions for Tuesday night. Now let's move over to Wednesday, where we'll be starting off once again with two early kickoffs, and the first of those sees Qarabag hosting Ajax. Where if you look purely at the table, this in theory should be a pretty easy game to call, because you've got Qarabag in 19th with 7 points from their opening 5 matches of the Champions League this season, taking on an Ajax side in 36th with 0 points in the competition so far, scoring the least goals in the competition so far, and conceding the most in the competition so far. However, I'm not fully convinced that it is going to be the case that Qarabag are guaranteed the victory here, because Ajax have had a bit of a turnaround under Fred Grimm over the last few weeks, since losing on Matchday 5-2-0 to Benfica, where they have actually won back-to-back matches in the Eredivisie over the last couple of weekends, and are starting to build some momentum back up again. Granted, they're still 14 points behind PSV in the table as things stand. In terms of Qarabag, they actually haven't won in the Champions League since Matchday 2, but were able to secure a 2-2 draw on this ground against Chelsea a couple of match days ago, and remain unbeaten in their domestic league in Azerbaijan since the opening day of the season. 12 games unbeaten for them domestically coming into this match. In terms of the team news, Malinovsky remains out for the home side after his injury against Chelsea on match day 4. For Ajax, Berghuis remains the only concern for them in the entire squad. So Ajax do have near enough a full complement available to them coming into this match. For me, the real question is, what are Ajax's priorities? Because I genuinely think, on paper, Ajax should be going to Azerbaijan here and getting the victory. However, as we've already mentioned, they are 14 points behind PSV in the actual Eredivisie title race. In terms of qualifying for Europe next year, or progressing in Europe this year, I think their priority will probably be more looking towards the league now, this time out. Their 3 remaining games are this one against Qarabag, Villarreal, and then Olympiacos. So it's not out of the question that they could get 9 points from their remaining 3 games. But even then, 9 points might not be enough to secure a playoff spot. Whereas if they concentrate on their big league game against Feyenoord this weekend, it gives them more of an opportunity of getting back into the Champions League next season, where they can start rebuilding the rest of this season. So it's going to be a very, very interesting one. Obviously, Qarabag already in a playoff spot. They're more than likely going to go for that victory here against what has been by far the worst performing side in this competition so far. So with all of that being said, I'm still going to go for a Qarabag victory of 2-1. But I'm going to warn you again, as I said, it's a very tough week to call this. And I do think Ajax are more than capable of getting the victory if they actually play their strongest team and they play to the ability level that we know that they have. So, going to be a close one, but I'm still going to go for that Qarabag win. The other early kickoff on Wednesday is Villarreal taking on Copenhagen. It's still baffling to me that Villarreal only have 1 point in this Champions League campaign so far. They lost 4-0 to Borussia Dortmund last time out, and they're now facing a Copenhagen side who got their first victory of the tournament on match day 5 when they beat Kairat, but that is their only win, like I say, of the competition so far. Since then, Villarreal have continued to be absolutely brilliant in La Liga, getting back-to-back victories over Real Sociedad and Getafe, whereas for Copenhagen, it's back-to-back defeats in the league, losing 2-0 at home this weekend. In terms of the team news for Villarreal, Gerard Moreno and Thomas Partey are out with injuries and Juan Foyth is going to be suspended. But as always, the big question is, what is the starting lineup going to be? They keep rotating their main players out of their Champions League lineups and they keep on losing. Kind of like the Ajax situation. They need to start picking up points fast, otherwise they're not even going to make the playoffs. But who knows? It just looks like the manager doesn't seem particularly interested about this Champions League campaign and seems more concerned about rotating and keeping his key players fit in La Liga. But do they think they're going to win the La Liga title? I don't know. If they're playing for a Champions League place, surely they should just be focusing on the Champions League now. Very, very confusing for me. Whereas for Copenhagen, they did actually rest a lot of their first-team players in that defeat at the weekend, so it should be noted that they should be expected to be back to their full complement coming into this game. Realistically, this is still Villarreal's game to lose. They've got 3 very beatable opponents, in my opinion, in their final 3 matches. Do Villarreal, and I think they are capable of winning them all, so we shall see. I'm going to go for the Villarreal victory. I'm going to go for 3-0, but again, watch this space. If they rotate their whole lineup out again, who knows, maybe Copenhagen can get something. On to the 8 o'clock kickoffs then, and we have another Spanish side at home here. That is Bilbao taking on Paris Saint-Germain. Metaphorically, it was a big win for Atletico Bilbao this weekend, where they beat Atletico Madrid 1-0. It was literally a big win for PSG this weekend as they hammered Rennes 5-0 back over in Ligue 1. In terms of the home side's form coming into this, it's not been good in the Champions League and their form needs addressing very, very quickly as they just have 4 points from their opening 5 games. It was that 0-0 draw against Slavia Prague last time out for them. Whereas for PSG, they are now up to second following their 5-3 victory over Spurs. And that is now 4 wins out of 5 for the Parisians coming into this game. As always, you'd fancy the defending champions to be the favourites coming into this fixture based on all of those stats. But there are a lot of reasons to suggest that Bilbao could get something from this match. Because if you look at the team news, there is a suspension apiece for either side. Paredes is out for Bilbao. Lucas Hernandez is out for PSG. But that is really where Bilbao's concerns end because Laporte is back, Inaki Williams is back, Nico Williams and Sanche both played really well at the weekend, and they're basically at their fullest strength side in terms of starting 11 coming into this game. Whereas for PSG, their defence is absolutely decimated at the moment. I've already mentioned that Lucas Hernandez is suspended. Then Hakimi, Nuno Mendes, Beraldo, Zabrani, and their goalkeeper Chevalier are all out injured for this match. So if Inaki and Nico Williams are both fit and available to play on the wide areas for Bilbao, they've got a serious chance of getting at a very, very vulnerable PSG defence right now. Problem is, all of PSG's attacking players, barring Desiree Doué, are available. So Dembele, Kvaratskhelia, etc., Vitinha, João Neves, Gonzalo Ramos, whoever you want, all those attack-minded players are still fit and available, and that's how they still scored 5 against Rennes this weekend. So I think we could be in for a very, very entertaining game here. No head-to-head record since 2011, so we can't read in anything into that one either. I'm still going to go for the PSG victory. I'm going to go for a 3-2, but again, watch this space. Don't rule out Bilbao in this match. Their key attackers are back, and all of PSG's key defenders, bar Marquinhos, are out injured. On to Leverkusen and Newcastle now, and the tricky fixtures just don't seem to end on this match day 6. For Leverkusen, it was a 2-0 victory away at Premier League side Manchester City on match day 5. It should be noted, of course, that Man City did rest their entire starting 11 for that match. More on that on our final prediction of the video. For Newcastle, it was that defeat to Marseille, but since then they have been unbeaten, winning 2 and drawing 1. That draw was a stoppage time equaliser from Spurs, so they have been very, very good over the last couple of weeks, have Newcastle. Been a very odd couple of weeks for Bayer Leverkusen, who lost at home to Dortmund in the Cup, then beat Dortmund in the league, then lost 2-0 to struggling Augsburg this weekend. So it's been a little bit all over the place for Leverkusen. And then when you consider they've already had a 7-2 defeat to PSG in this competition so far. You just don't really know what you're going to get from them at the moment. In terms of the team news, it does look like they are going to be out one of their key players in Grimaldo. He missed their defeat at the weekend, and Palacios remains out for them. For Newcastle, both Nick Pope and Kieran Trippier remain out for them, but I think we'll also still see some changes for Newcastle again in that midfield area. Eddie Howe's been rotating that midfield three quite a lot recently, and I think we're going to see something more along the lines of the usual Bruno, Tonali and Joelinton midfield for this match. What I think we'll see in this game is goals. I think both sides look a little bit defensively dodgy over the last couple of weeks, and I think that it could go one goal either way. If I had to pick a favourite, I would go for Newcastle, and that is where I'm going to go. I'm going to go for a 2-1 win, but again, I just think anything's possible in this game. Loads of goals, very, very possible for this one. Next, we're off to Portugal, where we have arguably a game between two bigger name managers than any of the players in their starting lineups, because it is Jose Mourinho's Benfica and Antonio Conte's Napoli on show here. It's actually now 5 games unbeaten for the Portuguese side, who beat Ajax on matchday 5, then got that draw against Sporting Lisbon in the league this weekend. For the Italians, they won 2-0 over Qarabag on matchday 5 and then backed that up with 2 incredibly important victories in Serie A over the last couple of weeks, winning away at Roma and then winning at home to Juventus last night. In terms of the team news, there's actually no fresh concerns for either side coming into this game, but for Napoli, they are still missing a fair few of their regular starters, with Kevin De Bruyne, Romelu Lukaku and Lobotka still out for them. Last time these sides met was back in 2016, so again, can't really rely on the head-to-head records in this video at all. It's an absolute must-win game for Benfica. It's a must-not-lose game for Napoli. I think it's going to be very, very tight, but on paper, Napoli should be the side coming out on top here. I'm going for a 1-0 win to the side from Naples. Finally, we have a game which on paper should be easy enough to call. We have got Borussia Dortmund in 6th, taking on Bodo Glimt in 32nd. For the home side, they are on a very good run, which included a 4-0 win over Villarreal in match day 5. They did, however, lose to Bayer Leverkusen at home in the league, but then bounced back from that with a 2-0 victory over Hoffenheim last night. For Bodo Glimt, they are really struggling in the Champions League, and their domestic season is now over in Norway. They were able to win their final game of the season, but it wasn't enough to see them win the league title, finishing 1 point behind Viking in first place in the Norwegian league. But it does give them a little bit of momentum coming into this fixture. In terms of the team news, the only player out for Dortmund remains Niklas Süle, whereas for Bodo Glimt, they are still going to be without Gunderson, who is suspended for this match. As always, I do think Bodo are more than capable of putting up somewhat of a fight, but I still think Dortmund should be winning this game fairly comfortably in the end. I'm going for a 3-1 victory to Borussia Dortmund, which then takes us to the league leaders, which is, of course, Arsenal, and they're going to be travelling to Belgium to face Club Brugge on match day 6. So far, for the Gunners, it is 5 wins out of 5 in the Champions League, but their 18-game unbeaten run in all competitions came crashing down this weekend with that last-minute winner from Emi Buendia for Aston Villa this weekend. For Bruges, it was a 3-0 defeat for them against Sporting Lisbon on match day 5, and they backed that up with 2 more defeats domestically to Royal Antwerp and St Truiden. So not going great for the home side coming into this match, although it should be noted that they did get that incredible 3-3 draw against Barcelona the last time they played in the Champions League on this ground. Obviously for Arsenal, it was that very impressive 3-1 win over Bayern Munich in the Champions League last time out. In terms of the team news, Jackers and Romero are both out for Bruges, having not featured since match day 5. For Arsenal, it's still all about their defence. Gabriel and Mosquera both definitely out of this fixture. William Saliba and Calafiori are both doubts for this match. Saliba could return. Calafiori a fresh injury concern after having to go off at the weekend. I still think, though, Arsenal should be considered the favourites for this match. Yes, they've started to show a couple of cracks in their armour over the last couple of weeks since Gabriel's injury, but they should still be beating a side like Bruges. Yes, we know what they're capable of on their day. We saw it against Barcelona, but all logic tells me that Arsenal should be coming out on top here. I'm going for a 3-1 win to Arsenal. Then our penultimate game sees Juventus hosting Pafos, 22nd taking on 24th here. It's been a very, very good run for the Cypriots so far in this Champions League season. But we'll start off with the home side, who were 8 games unbeaten in all competitions before that defeat to Napoli last night in Serie A. That run included a 3-2 victory over Bodo Glimt last time out. However, it should be noted that was Juve's first win in the Champions League so far this season. They haven't won at home yet in the Champions League. For Pafos, they are also on 6 points from their opening 5 matches and are 7 games unbeaten in all competitions. That includes a 2-2 draw against Monaco on Matchday 5 and then back-to-back wins back in Cyprus over the last couple of weekends. And it should also be noted that Pafos have drawn 0-0 in both of their away fixtures so far. So with Juve not winning at home and Pafos not losing away, there is a genuine opportunity here for the Cypriots to produce what would be another shock result for them in this fixture. In terms of the team news, no fresh concerns for either side coming into this. I don't see this being a particularly high-scoring game. We obviously know that Pafos are once again going to be looking for that 0-0 draw with another home game coming up for them on Matchday 7, which if they win, could give them that spot in the playoffs. I think they're going to give it their all, but I don't think they're going to have enough to keep Juventus' talented attack out. I think it's going to be a close one, but I'm going for a 1-0 victory to Juventus. And then last, and certainly not least, we have Real Madrid and Manchester City. Without doubt, the biggest fixture of the entire week, and it's the very last prediction of the video. These two sides have won 3 of the last 4 Champions Leagues, obviously 2 in favour of Madrid and 1 in favour of Manchester City. In terms of their previous fixtures, very, very bizarre for both. For Real Madrid, it was that 4-3 victory over Olympiacos, with Kylian Mbappe scoring all 4 goals in that match. For Manchester City, it was that bizarre 2-0 home defeat to Leverkusen, where Pep Guardiola changed basically his entire starting 11 for that match. I'd be surprised if he does that again going to the Bernabeu here, but who knows? Pep has done some very strange things over the years. Since then, it's been an absolute mess from a Real Madrid perspective. Yes, they did beat Bilbao in the league, but they drew to Girona and then lost 2-0 at home to Celta Vigo last night with 2 red cards in the match to both Fran Garcia and Alvaro Carreras. Very, very poor result again for Real Madrid. And there are some people suggesting that if they lose to Manchester City in this game, that Xabi Alonso could lose his job, which is just ridiculous when you think about the start of the season that they had. For Manchester City, 3 wins out of 3 since Matchday 5, 11 goals scored in those 3 matches, and 6 goals conceded in those 3 matches. So hopefully, we're in for a very, very entertaining game here. In terms of the team news, I think Real Madrid's defence is somehow even more depleted than PSG's. We spoke about the sort of state their one was in earlier. For Real Madrid, they've got no fit right-backs, with both Trent Alexander-Arnold and Dani Carvajal out injured. In terms of centre-backs, Huijsen and Alaba were already out, and then Militao went off injured last night, meaning that Rudiger and Raul Asensio are their only fit centre-backs, but Asensio's already been covering at right-back, so I guess Valverde's going to have to go there. Asensio goes back into centre-back with Rudiger, or maybe they just play Carreras at centre-back like they did last night, but let's not forget, he got sent off playing there last night. And then, of course, they still have Ferland Mendy out injured at left-back as well. It's a serious, serious mess, that Real Madrid defence at the moment. For Manchester City, no fresh concerns for them, but Rodri is unlikely to return for this match. These two sides absolutely do have a head-to-head record, though. This is the 5th season in a row that these two sides have played each other. That head-to-head record very strong in Real Madrid's favour, who have knocked Manchester City out of the Champions League in 3 of the last 4 seasons. Manchester City, of course, knocking Real Madrid out in the other. This is the first time they have met in the league phase, though, in any of these seasons. I would expect Manchester City to win this game from what I've seen over the last few weeks. I know Real Madrid are still going to be considered the overwhelming favourites because of Mbappe, Vinicius, etc, etc, etc. But I just look at the way that City have played, certainly this weekend against Sunderland. I look at how poor Real Madrid have been over the last few weeks and how poor they were against Liverpool in the Champions League a few weeks ago. I just think Manchester City are going to win this game. I think it's going to be a thriller. I think we're going to see a lot of goals. But I am going to go for a Manchester City win. And I'm going for a 3-2 win to the English side. All that is left to do then is round off what you guys think is going to be happening on all of these Wednesday fixtures. And again, thank you very much for all of you that have had your say on these fixtures. And don't forget to have your say on all the games in the Europa League and the Europa Conference League. But this is what you've gone for these Wednesday games in the Champions League. Very close between Qarabag and Ajax, but the majority have still gone for Qarabag, which I'm not surprised about. But yeah, 50%, 44%. Basically, everyone thinks Villarreal are going to beat Copenhagen. Basically, everyone thinks PSG are going to beat Bilbao. Again, very close between Leverkusen and Newcastle, but the majority have gone for a Leverkusen win. Incredibly close between Benfica and Napoli, our closest prediction of the night, with it being completely dead split, 35-35, with 30% going for the draw. Basically, everyone thinks Dortmund are going to beat Bodo Glimt. Basically, everyone thinks Arsenal are going to beat Club Brugge. Basically, everyone thinks Juventus are going to beat Pafos. And again, very close between Real Madrid and Man City, with the majority going for the Spanish side. I have, of course, gone for the English side. All that is left to say is a massive thank you very much for watching. I'm going to pop my predictions back up on the screen for you one last time. As I've just mentioned, don't forget to check out that community page for all of the matches taking place in the Europa League and the Europa Conference League. I will be back tonight as soon as the Manchester United Wolves game has concluded with my post-match reaction. Hopefully it won't be another meltdown, but if it is, I'm sure I'll see more of you there than if Manchester United actually win the game. And of course, I'll be back same time tomorrow morning to do all of those Europa League previews and predictions. As always, a massive thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you very soon.